Welcome, everybody. Near-death experiencers tell us that we are multidimensional human beings and that we have the ability to access all kinds of information in all kinds of ways. Today's guest, Rob Gutro, has a unique perspective and a unique talent that I think you're going to want to know about. Rob Gutro is an author, paranormal investigator, and medium. Since he was a child, he could receive messages from ghosts and spirits who have crossed over. As a scientist, he also provides some scientific explanations about how energy is the baseline of the afterlife and the medium that entities use to communicate. Rob participates in private paranormal investigations, helps ghosts cross over, and has provided countless messages from people and pets. So, in the interview that we're about to do, I think you're going to find a couple of things that you're going to want to listen for. Here they are. Rob has a really nice definition between what it means to be a ghost and what it means to be a spirit. And as you heard, he views energy as the foundation of the universe, and that this energy is different for ghosts and spirit. Listen for that. I think there's a fascinating section in here, and we talk about how humans communicate versus how pets communicate and what kinds of messages that they're able to transmit to people here in the physical universe. And way at the end of the interview, Rob talks about what what kinds of animals that you can communicate with and which ones you can't. I found that to be really interesting. So here's our interview with Rob Gutro. Hi, Rob. We are so glad to have you here on the Afterlife Files.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
I've been looking forward to this interview because you're one of those few people in life that have the ability to talk to ghosts, talk to spirits, talk to pets. And we're all interested in your stories and, how all that works. So, why don't you start us off and tell us a little bit about how you got into this line of inquiry, when it started? You know the drill.
Sure. Well, it's kind of an accidental jump start, if you will, when I was 13 years old. My grandfather appeared to me in full color about 6 or 7 months after he died, and he scared the life out of me. Um,
Yeah.
yep. Uh, so when I told my parents when they arrived home, my mother said that it's not surprising. It turns out she had the ability, but she was afraid to use it. Turns out that other people in her family had the ability. Um, so I was the one of my other two brothers that inherited this ability.
So it didn't show up before 13, but Grandpa said, now's the time to open the door.
Apparently he did, yeah. Which was interesting because I never had a I never had a really close relationship with my grandfather. I don't think he liked kids. So, um, but that ability kind of got shelved as I got older because I was going to school and so forth. And then in 2005, I had a puppy that named Buzz, and his leash opened when I was walking him, and he was killed by a car.
Oh,
He was the one that actually reawakened everything, and he taught me how pets communicate from the other side as well as people.
oh, cool. So back up just a second. When you say you saw your grandfather in full color, what does that mean?
So, I'm a scientist. I'm a meteorologist in my day job, and to me, I have to explain everything in terms of energy. What I've learned is that when spirits who have crossed over, and I'll explain the difference between a ghost and a spirit, have enough energy, they can appear in full color. But if they don't have enough energy, they usually appear as shadows.
Ah, okay. And so was your grandfather corporeal? I mean, could you touch him and hug him and all that sort of thing?
Well, Scott, to be honest with you, I was so scared, I didn't give a chance. I saw him for about 5 seconds and I grabbed the dog and I ran out the door. So I was done.
I get it. At 13, that would have been a little much for me too.
Yeah.
So this happened, and then it was dormant until Buzz was killed,
Yes.
and then how did that transpire? How did that communication open up?
Well, the good thing about when all of this happened was I was keeping a diary and I would write down everything that transpired after Buzz's death. Um, really, right after he passed, he was very much around me, and the first thing he gave me was a musical sign when I had brought his body back to my my townhouse with the help of neighbors. Took about an hour to get through the emotional trauma that happened. I walked in the door and there was a song playing. What's interesting is that I was the only one home and I did not have the radio on when I left, but it was on when I came back. And it was playing a song that was very appropriate. It was Garth Brooks' song "The Dance," about a man who loved very deeply for a short time and then lost the love of his life. And that's what happened to me.
And I imagine that's what happened to your dog too.
Yes. Yeah.
And then how did that progress?
So over time, he gave me physical signs. He would move things. I would hear him. I would hear his collar. I would hear his feet on the stairs. After a while, I also heard other things. When a pet passes, they will do whatever they did in life. They will do from the afterlife to give you signs. So you may hear a bark or meow, and it'll sound like it's coming from another room. It takes a lot of energy, though, to do that. Um, they'll also lead you to another pet that looks like them at a certain time. And that happened to me with Buzz. They'll also show up, sometimes in full color, sometimes as a shadow. So these are some of the things that I cataloged and I wrote about to teach people how their own pets communicate from the afterlife.
So give us the short course on how that transpires and how you've helped people understand this method of communication.
I've written 3 series of books, and one of them is Pets in the Afterlife, how pets communicate from the other side. The other two are Ghosts on a Medium's Vacation, because when I go on vacation, I run into a lot of dead people that want to talk to me. um, and the others are Ghosts and Spirits. That is, earthbound ghosts or spirits who have crossed over. So the reason I write these books is to share not only my experiences, but to educate people about what what I find about the afterlife and how it all works, and that energy is the foundation of the afterlife after we leave this earth.
So talk about that. The energy that is the foundation. What's that mean to you? And you know, describe that for us.
Sure. So as a scientist, it's really important for me to prove how the afterlife exists and how people and pets can communicate with us. So there's a law that we have in science. It's called the law of conservation of energy. And that law states that energy is something that can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed into another way, another form. And that applies to living people. or living pets, anything alive. What I've come to find out is that the energies within us, coupled with our memories, our personality, and the knowledge that we have of this life. And that's basically what a soul is. It's energy with memories, personality, and knowledge. Um, and then we make a choice. After we die, we choose to either stay earthbound at a fixed location of our choosing, either a place we're familiar with or a place we died, like a hospital or battlefield or prison. Or we cross over into the light, the other side, and that's what I call a spirit. So there's also energy takes a bigger part of the afterlife too, because both of these entities, although they are similar but different because of location, both of them use energy. They use physical energies of heat, light, water, and electricity. Those power them up to give us messages. But they also use emotional energy, and that's where it diverges, because I have found that the earthbound entities, ghosts, if you will, that's what I call them,
Yeah.
they use negative emotional energy like fear, anxiety, depression, and anger. And so if a ghost is living with you, they will not only draw on those emotions that you're showing, but they will also emit them to the living. So the living people may be more short tempered with other people that live in the house, or feel more anxiety or more depressed. So it's a kind of a vicious cycle with a ghost. While spirits draw on the positive emotions of love, faith, and hope. And that's what empowers them to come back and visit at certain times of the year.
And have you found that to always be true that ghosts tend to go towards the slower vibrations and the spirits do the higher vibrations?
I have, yes. Um, and the negative energy, by the way, the negative emotional energy is not a reflection of the personality of a ghost.
Oh,
That's important. Um, a ghost could be a very good person, very happy, and decide to stay earthbound, which is a big mistake because it's like being trapped in a prison where no one can hear you unless they're lucky enough that a medium happens to walk in the place where you chose to stay and you're stuck. Um, I found that earthbound ghosts can also not really communicate with spirits of loved ones who have crossed over. That's why when everybody listening uh, is about to pass, don't make the wrong choice and stay earthbound as a ghost.
and why do you say wrong choice?
Well, if you think about it, you choose to stay in a place for the rest of your eternity, for your afterlife, where you cannot communicate with anybody, where your loved ones are all on the other side in spirit. It's like being trapped in an isolation prison cell for your entire afterlife.
Right. Not so pleasant.
No, not a choice that I would like to make. But one thing that I have learned though is pets, any animals really, don't often stay behind. And that's because if you're a pet owner, if you're a pet parent, you know that they can sense a good person or uh, a peaceful situation, and they tend to go to it. And that's exactly what happens. So when they pass, they can sense the light and they know it's good and it's peaceful and it's love and it's a good place, which is why they don't stay behind very often.
And yet Buzz did stay behind, or did was he making the jump?
He made the jump. So um, often what happens with pets, just like with people that I've found, is that our loved ones are waiting for them on the other side to help them cross over, to alleviate their fear of crossing over. So if you've loved, uh, if you've lost people that you've loved, humans or pets, they're all going to be waiting there on the other side when it's your time. You'll often hear stories from people in hospital beds who are dying, and they'll be talking about their mother or their father who is on the other side that are just standing in the room there waiting for them. Um, and that's the same thing too with pets.
I know when my father was passing over just this last October, um, he was a big hunter and had a whole series of dogs, hunting dogs in his life. And they were all there for him when he made his transition. It was quite the rowdy bunch.
Yeah, there's some people have a whole menagerie on the other side, and there is nothing like that kind of love to be greeted with.
I agree. So these earthbound spirits who can communicate only through lower vibration kind of energy, at some point they're going to go, I don't want to be here anymore. This is just like
Mhm.
not, there's got to be something else because this isn't anything like I've been told how it goes. What happens for them?
So yeah, so that I would call them ghosts. So the ghosts do realize over time that they have been trapped and they made the wrong choice, which is why, as a paranormal investigator, when I go on these investigations and we ask a ghost a question, one of the most popular things that they say is, "Help me." And what do they want help with? Well, they realize they want help crossing over. Um, Now, that's another part of the equation too with energy is that because ghosts and spirits are energy, I think of them like a light bulb that doesn't have enough of a charge to
Yep.
give light, if you will. Um, and they get that charge by using those physical energies I described and the emotional energies I described. Um, so in order to cross over, it takes a lot of energy to open the doorway to the other side. And you get one chance when you pass to go across that doorway. Um, and then if you wait too long for some reason, we don't know how long or why, you get stuck. And that's why there are ghosts. But as paranormal investigators, what we do is we go in. I'm part of a team called Inspired Ghost Tracking. We go in, and if we find a ghost, we try to cross them over. So we combine our physical energies, our emotional energies, to open a doorway to the other side. And then we call on the people that are connected to the ghost who are in spirit. We call them on the other side to get them to help them cross over. So that's why a ghost can't open a portal by themselves. They just don't have enough energy.
They need that extra bit of juju to get them over the hump.
Yes.
That's a highly technical term, by the way. Juju. It works all the time. So, so if I'm understanding things, the pets you communicate with and the spirits that you communicate with, uh, they're on the other side, and they tend to have a similar vibration because
Mhm.
they're they've made that crossover. Is communication with them different because one's a person and one's a pet? How does that work for you?
Yeah, that's that's a great question. So, people can people communicate much the way that you and I are talking, but it's not though in complete sentences. People will share images or names or dates or objects or something in order to convey who they are and what they want or what they're trying to convey to a loved one. Pets, on the other hand, learn at different levels, and I explain that in my books that there's instinctual learning, there's language learning, there's behavior, there's routine, there's playing well with others, socialization. Pets learn all kinds of things, and they do learn language because they know what sit and stay means. They know who grandma is. They know who mom and dad are. Um, and So what they can do is when I do readings with pets, they can convey those names or images of people. Um, they will they will show me what they do to give signs to people. Um, and we described some of the signs in the beginning of the program, but um, like for instance, cats. Some cats like to jump up on the end of a bed and walk around in spirit. Um, I had one cat that came through to me and kept telling me that he liked to lay on his mother's pillow and bat her hair at night. And she confirmed it. She said at night, since her cat passed, sometimes she feels like there's something going through her hair. And when I asked if her cat did that in life, she said yes. Oddly enough, yes. So the cat continues to do that to let her know that he's still there.
Okay, so now we're talking about what kind of messages tend to come through from people and from pets. What are some of the significant messages you have received from spirits on the other side?
Oh gosh. Well, I have 10 books full, but so
Fair
there,
enough.
yeah, so,
Give us a small sample in, will you?
um, for spirits, really, it's all about love. It's all about letting us know that they are still very much around, that they're guiding us, that they're helping us make choices and keeping us safe. For Earthbound Ghosts, it's a totally different world. It's a totally different story. For Earthbound Ghosts, it's really all about them. It's about them being stuck where they are, the reasons they chose why they're stuck there, the reasons they chose not to cross over. Um, so so with Spirit, it's about love. It's about sharing the love to everybody. But ghosts are a little more all about me kind of thing, and they need help. Um, but some of the messages have been pretty amazing, and spirits will use unique things that only they and the person for whom the message is intended to identify themselves. So I'll give you one instance.
Okay.
In my book Pets in the Afterlife 4, which is about cats and how cats communicate, there was a cat named Buddy who came to me. When I do readings, by the way, I do them at home. I do them on the computer. I just look at a picture, just look at the name, and any questions that the pet parent has. So Buddy came through to me with a number of things that I shared. And one of the things he came through to me with was a word that I never heard of before. And the word was mala, Mala.
Okay.
And I thought, if I write that in my email reading to the cat's mother, um, she'll think I'm crazy. But I did it anyway because the cat said mala 2 or 3 times. And I said, okay. So I did. Um, when I got a response from the pet parent, she said she was kind of blown away because there are only two living beings that know what the word mala means, her and Buddy, her cat. She said every morning she wakes up, opens her bedroom door, has Buddy come into her room, and she does a meditation with Buddy called the Mala meditation.
Oh my. That's
And
wonderful.
yeah, I had chills reading her email. I thought, oh my gosh, I, I have to trust what spirit gives me.
Oh, that's terrific. Um, so when you communicate um, with pets, does it feel like you're doing the same thing as you're doing when you communicate with human beings on the other side, spirits?
No, not really. and and so I made a choice a couple of years ago that I was not going to communicate with human spirits anymore. And I just wanted to focus on pet spirits. And I also communicate with human ghosts, earthbound ghosts, because I want to help them cross over. Um, but the reason is because pets are nothing but love. It's all about love with pets. People honestly have a lot of hangups. And
Really, I never noticed that. Just flash of insight there.
you're hanging out with some good people. um, there was one specific reading I did for a person that really changed my opinion of doing readings for people, and that was it was hard for me because a woman asked me to do a reading with her dad, and what I got was frightening. Her dad was abusive. He was an alcoholic. The things that he came to me and provided with me really made me uncomfortable putting in an email reading to a person I didn't know. I didn't know anything about her. I didn't know where she lived. I didn't know her last name, nothing. And all she did was say, "Here's my dad. Here's his name. What he's got to say." And he kept asking for forgiveness and so forth. And she wrote me back and she confirmed every single thing in that reading. And I just thought, okay, I'm done. I, I it's too emotional for me. Um, it's too much. I would rather just talk to a dog or a cat or a horse, bird, rabbit, because they're all about love. It makes it easier.
It's true. So, um, when you talk to an animal or to a spirit,
Mhm.
are you like, are you merging with that energy? So when you encounter, somebody who has some dark energy, you take it on?
So sometimes they actually will share pain of death with me.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, I know. It's a way to confirm their identity. Pets do it often. Pets will do that a lot. I get a number of emails from people who say, I don't know what took the life of my pet. Um, Humans will do that as well. So I've been hit, punched, kicked, stabbed, pushed downstairs. I felt heart attacks and cancer and all kinds of crazy things. Even a sword went through me when I was visiting England. So yeah,
That's an
um,
extraordinary life, Rob.
it's kind of crazy.
Reminds me of Groundhog Day, the movie where he died 10,000 times or something.
I remember that very well. Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, would you describe for us what it's like then to open yourself up to communicating with pets? What's the ritual that you do or have done?
Um, well, it's really difficult to hear them, if you will, when somebody is talking to you. So the way I've come to be comfortable with hearing them and getting messages is by sitting in my own office all by myself with the lights out and tuning into the picture of a pet and the pet's name and whatever questions the pet parent has. Um, and usually the pet will give me like a big data dump right from the beginning. I just did a reading this past weekend for a woman whose dog had passed, and she wanted to know she wanted to know what the dog had to say, and that was it. That was her question. So um, the dog came through and talked about her collar, and and she said, "Make sure mom keeps my collar," and then she changed the subject because pets have the intelligence of a 3 to 5 year old child, and they can only maintain a thought for a very short time before they go to something else. So I was talking about the collar, and then all of a sudden the dog was telling me about hearts. And I thought, wait a minute. We're talking about collars here. So then I wrote to her and I said, your dog just suddenly changed the subject about hearts. And we'll give you signs in terms of heart-shaped things. And when she wrote me back, she said her dog's collar has hearts all over it.
Oh, that's that's isn't that extraordinary when it comes through that clearly?
Yeah, and I'm here trying to make sense of it. And what I've learned is that I really need not to try and make sense of it, just pass the messages on.
So can anybody learn how to communicate with pets?
So yes, that's a good question. You really can. And what I always tell people is that it's about trusting your feelings. Um, I always quote Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars and say, "Trust your feelings, Luke." But it's true. If so, if you're thinking of someone and you're out out walking around somewhere, and you look down and suddenly there's a coin, that could be a sign from them. So pick it up, look at the date on it. The year may be a an indication of which spirit it is. Um, in one of my books, Kindred Spirits, about my partner's late partner, he uses coins all the time. And they're dated, I have more coins dated 1996 every time he shows up.
Ah,
I know what to do with. And that was a long time ago. But if you're in the house and you may see a shadow out of the corner of your eye and you had a cat that passed or a dog that passed, if you're thinking of them at that time, you may have caught them out of the corner of your eye. Now, we can't see spirits typically head on because they move at a different vibration. But dogs and cats have a different physiology in their eyes and their ears, so they can see and hear spirits who visit. So watch your dogs and cats.
and what will they do that will seem out of the ordinary?
They will often stare at what looks like nothing. um, and when they do that, make a note of the date because the date is very important. Pets, like people, will visit us around birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. Anniversaries, by the way, can mean the anniversaries of adoption or the anniversaries that they passed. So those are important dates. Um, and sometimes I notice cats are a little more skittish when spirits visit. Sometimes you may see your cat staring for a moment, and then they bolt out of the room. Um, One of the reasons for that is that if we think about spirit, it takes a lot of energy for them to be visible, let alone heard, if they choose to be heard. But dogs and cats rely on scent. So imagine being a dog or cat, and you see one of your dogs, one of your siblings that passed. You see them, you may hear them, but you can't smell them because it takes too much energy. So that doesn't make any sense. And frankly, that's frightening to a dog or a cat that, there's another dog you see, but you can't smell them.
Ah,
Yeah.
and so they pick up on that using their majority sense, and if it's out of whack, then this is a strange thing, and best to leave the room.
Yeah. It's kind of frightening.
So, what's the easiest way that animals communicate with us?
Well, they do it very much the same way that they do in life. So if you're having dinner, for instance, they may nudge you on your leg because they want something from the table. So
Shocking.
I've found that a number of dogs, especially dogs, will do that to people after they pass. So they may feel a nudge. The other thing too is that one thing that I explain actually scientifically that I haven't heard anybody else explain is that spirits or ghosts can create cold spots. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
So as a scientist, I had to think about how that could possibly happen. And here's what I concluded. What they do is they draw on the energy of air molecules. They draw on the energy of motion of air molecules. That said, fast moving molecules of air, like in the tropics, are, are warm air. They're bouncing all over and they're colliding. Slow moving molecules of air are cold air. They're very slow. They're very slow moving in the Arctic. So when they draw the energy from the fast moving molecules of air, they slow the motion down and create a cold spot right where they're appearing.
I'll go with that.
Okay.
That makes sense. And as a meteorologist, you get like double credibility points on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so as a medium, can you communicate with all kinds of pets, or there's some that like just don't want to talk to you?
Um, so I can communicate with any domesticated pet. I You can't communicate with wild animals because if you think about it, wild animals don't know our habits, they don't know our language, they don't know really anything about how we live. So there's nothing that they can relate to um, and share that I would understand. So um, I've been in communication with uh, rabbits and ferrets and rats and gerbils. They all can whatever they can see, they can show me. I
See,
will tell you
meaning
though, Scott.
visual,
Yeah,
visual.
vision.
Yeah. Okay.
I will tell you that I don't. I draw the line at spiders and snakes because, like like the old Jim Stafford song, I don't really care for them.
Where you're dating yourself.
I know.
Oh my. So what's what's the overall message that your communication with pets has taught you over the years and working with all these pet owners? What do you want to impart to us as words of wisdom?
There are quite a few actually words of wisdom from pets. One is number one is they always tell me to thank their pet parent for the life that they've been given. Number two, they came here to teach us unconditional love. That's the lesson that we have to learn from them. Because I don't think as humans we're really capable of understanding what unconditional love is. Um,
Not yet.
yeah, not yet. Right? um, Number three, they don't want us to feel guilty for helping them cross over. They um, they will often give us signs like not eating, not engaging anymore, walking out of the room when you're trying to get their attention, and so forth. So it's really about paying attention, and they're always very appreciative that you saw that they were in pain and they needed to cross. Um, so they don't want us to feel guilt. Instead, they want us to feel their love and their appreciation for that. Um, I've also written about other things like my own dog Sprite, who passed away. He's in My Pets in the Afterlife 1 and 2 books. When it was time for us to bring him to the vet, he had a tumor that burst in his nose, and he was 16 and a half years old. And the vet said he needs to, you need to do the right thing. Um, he had not eaten either for 2 days, 3 days before, but I brought his favorite treat on the way. He ate the entire treat. And I felt so guilty. I felt so awful. I thought maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. But the thing is that your pet will be so excited that you recognize that it's their time and they know where they're going, that they may show a burst of energy. And, like me, I felt guilty until I heard from Sprite afterward that he was excited, that he knew that I recognized it was his time. So, so that's why it's really all about love with pets, and that's what they want us to learn. And they're okay with us usually adopting another pet. Um, Although I have done some readings where some have said they wanted somebody to adopt a dog, for instance, of the opposite sex because they wanted to be the only male dog in the family. Crazy things, but it's all good.
Do you get the sense that dogs and cats have a sense of the afterlife?
Um, I think that if there's a dog or a cat that had passed, and they encounter that dog spirit, that will give them their first inkling of the afterlife. Um, it's just like I think it's just like people too. Is that we may hear about the afterlife, but we don't not until we really have to face it. I think that it comes more to the forefront of our minds. I think that's the way it is with pets too.
Yeah.
So, do you have a dog or a cat? I've been meaning to ask you that.
Oh, I had I inherited a cat from my stepdaughter who realized that she was allergic after about 10 years.
Oh,
And Cloudy stayed with me. She was 23 when she died. She was really old and smart, lovely alley cat. Just Melissa had found her as a really small little kitty being chased by dogs down the alley. And she rescued Cloudy
wow.
and was part of our lives for long, long time. 6
Wow.
pounds, really small cat.
That's a good life, though.
Yep. She used to, when I would come home at night, she would greet me at the door. And then the number of times that she meowed was the number of messages that were on my voicemail.
No kidding.
No kidding. 100%. She's never wrong.
That's amazing.
It blew my mind. And yeah, she'd come to the door and go meow, 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 and then walk into the the kitchen where back when we had, you know,
Answer
an
machines.
actual answering machine box, and then stand on her hind legs with her paws up right underneath the answering machine in case I missed it.
Right, right.
And then one of the things that she did was I was having my house up for sale, and the real estate agents came to tour the home while I was at work. And when I got home, Cloudy just was like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." And again went into the kitchen, stood on her hind legs, put her paws on the cabinet, and on the cabinet were all of the business cards of the agents who had toured. And she was telling me that they did something weird up there on that countertop. So really, really smart cat.
That's amazing. And
That's
I will
what.
say that pets do have the ability to count. Absolutely. I know. So in our house, at about 7:30 every night, I have what's called three treat time for our three dogs. And I can give them two treats and just sit there. and they'll all sit there and wait for number three. And I use hand signals too. So I'll give them the one, the two, and then the three. And once I do the three and they get their treat, they all walk away.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're a lot
I
smarter
love,
than you think they are.
I love that. Yes. So I have very fond memories. And um, my wife is allergic to um, cats. So
Oh,
no cats anymore. We are feline-less in this household.
okay. Well, you'll have to rely on a spirit cat then.
I will. Cloudy's there hanging out, I'm sure. I'll have to, now that you've given me a hint on how to communicate with her, we'll see if we can make that happen.
Sure. So dreams are the easiest way for people to communicate with spirit. And I always tell people that when they lose a pet, ask them to come into your dreams. And often the pet, like humans, will come into your dreams and they'll appear younger and more vivacious and more energetic. And that's because when we're in spirit, we like to appear as the way that we were happiest in life. So I know whenever my dad appears to me in dreams, he appears in his like his mid 30s. And I don't remember ever seeing my dad the way he looked in his mid 30s, which is kind of crazy. But but that's the way he always appears. I mean, that's when he was the most comfortable in life. So it's
Yep.
the same thing with pets as well. Have you dreamt of any loved ones in spirit that looked younger?
All the time. Yeah. And in my near death research, it's exactly the same thing. People will typically there's a reunion party, after you go through the tunnel into the light, there's a reunion with your dead relatives and pets and friends. And um, when people show up at that party, they are their finest self. So they pick their own age is kind of what I get. And how they feel good or how they want to present themselves. I have um, my girlfriend's son who was killed in a car accident. When he appears, it depends on what he wants to talk about. And sometimes he'll appear as a 7-year old, which is how old he was when he passed.
Hmm.
But other times he's 30 or 50. It's just it's like, well, I have a more sophisticated thing to talk with you about, Scott, so I'm going to be 45. Or if I'm just being, joyous, I'm 7. And so it changes.
Wow.
And I think about it and I recognize them more from their energetic signature
Mhm.
than from their physical nature. And, you know, I guess that might be true with animals too, that there's like a generic cat form. You go, oh well, that's got to be Cloudy, has that same feel.
Yeah, if you feel it, if that's what you feel, then that's who it is. I will say there's in my first book, Ghosts and Spirits Explained, I talk about how my aunt appeared to me as a shadow. She was a shadow figure. She didn't have a lot of energy, but she kept coming to me because she needed forgiveness from my mother. You know
Ah,
how you know how siblings have a love-hate relationship sometimes. Um, so my aunt used to do, I guess, things that would annoy my mother all the time, or like steal her clothes and all that stuff. And so they had that kind of a relationship. And when my aunt passed, um, uh, we knew that she wanted forgiveness from my mother, but my mother was kind of steadfast in her reluctance to do that. It took me 25 years to convince my mother to forgive her sister after her sister passed, because her sister kept coming to me. My aunt kept coming to me and saying, I need this forgiveness to move to the next level of the afterlife. And she was the one actually that taught me that there are 3 levels. That's what she taught me. But I mean, there may be more. I don't know, but this is what she told me. And once my mother forgave her, um, I asked I asked my aunt when I was driving one day to give me a sign. Um, then I didn't think about it. I turned on my CD player, and the song that always reminded me of my aunt came on, and I said, "Oh my gosh, if you have achieved that other level on the afterlife, please give me a sign." The CD skipped twice, and then I thought, okay. I said, I want to, I have to make sure that you really are okay. Then it skipped again. And Scott, I have to tell you, I played that CD over and over again afterward, and it never skipped.
Never skips. Of course
No,
not.
no.
So, okay, so you gave us that kind of a little hint there. You said 3 levels. 3 levels of what?
The afterlife, the other side.
Talk about that. What'd you learn?
So I learned that when we cross over as energy, um, we can we judge ourselves just like we do by staying earthbound as a ghost. I've also found that people who stay earthbound as a ghost tend to be very strong in their religious convictions, and then when we have that life review, they think they did something so bad that they would go to a bad place on the other side, so they stay behind as a ghost. But if you go to the other side, sometimes you put yourself in a lower level of the afterlife until you can get that forgiveness or whatever you need um, to move up to the second level. So that's what I've learned. And people on the third level are like near perfection. So I don't know if any of us will ever get to that level, but um, I guess the pets would.
They're just born that way. So, speaking about sisters driving each other crazy, is there a question that people ask you that drives you crazy about pets in the afterlife?
Oh God, yeah, yeah. When they say animals have no souls,
Oh dear.
that's just the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard. Because every every living thing has a soul. It's the energy within us, coupled with memories, personality, and the knowledge of the life we live. And that's what a soul is. And um, for people who say that animals don't have souls, I have to question whether they have a soul, to be honest with you. Um, it's just it's just that they don't understand really what it is, and that, that's why I write the books, to explain what happens after we pass, the choices we make, where we go, and how to communicate with each other, because it's all a learning experience. And I always say, when people say to me, "What's it like on the other side?" I always tell them, "I don't know. Wait till I get there, and then ask me, and I'll tell you."
Well, speaking of learning, um, how can people learn more about what you do and your books and podcasts, and where should they go to find out more about Rob?
You are the master of segues. Thank you. They can go to robgutro.com. If they can't remember how to spell my last name, it's petspirits.com. It goes to the same place. And I'm all over social media like an epidemic. I'm on I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I just started TikTok, LinkedIn. Um, it's exhausting, but you can find me if you look for me.
robgutro.com. That's Gutro.
Yes.
And what's the one thing you'd like to leave us with before we call this a day?
Just remember that we have a lot of support on the other side, a lot of love, and people in spirit don't want us to get down because we're missing them. Instead, they want us to celebrate their lives, whether people or pets. And just know that that passing is not something to really be afraid of because it's all about love on the other side. And as we talked about today, Scott, we have not only people, but we have lots of pets on the other side, all waiting for us. And who doesn't want to be greeted by a wagging tail?
To be reunited with all that unconditional love. Oh, just just wonderful. Thank you, Rob. This has been a fascinating conversation. And I hope that you um, wind up spreading the word about the love of pets and how they are there to support us and love us.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure being on your show and talking to you. This has been great. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for being with us today on the Afterlife Files. Wasn't that fun? I really had fun interviewing Rob. There's one thing in there that I keep coming back to that keeps coming up as part of our interviews, and that is that that there's energy is the foundation of the universe. And secondly, that communication, it's all about love. So I keep putting those two together that the foundation of our universe is a loving consciousness, a loving energy. It's the same thing, whether it be humans or pets, and that the universe is created out of this loving consciousness that we can all tap into in all of its forms. Thank you for being with us in the Afterlife Files. We really enjoy having you here. Bye now.